Reflection.
Welcome. I've been thinking about invisibility. No, not the superpower, as cool as that may be, but invisibility from the system and the matrix for guiding our youth and our young into a new way. You see, here in Australia, they force you to enroll to vote, basically. They tell you it's something that everyone does. It's good for the system. And they threaten you with fines if you don't enroll, although that's not purposeful. So they force you to enroll. Now they've lowered it to 16 and 17 when you're still in school. And only when you're 18 can you vote, which puts it in the same category as gambling and alcohol. But here's the thing with it, right? You can't leave. I mean, if you fail to vote, they will fine you. And if you continuously do it, they'll fine you, whether it's $20 or $100, whatever it may be. You can't leave and say, I don't want to vote anymore. It's not in my interests. I don't believe in it. No, you are tied into that contract. The only way you can legitimately leave the Electoral Commission is if you move overseas. And then you have to put in a document to say you're leaving and you're not coming back. You can still come back to the country, Australia, and they say that you can re-enroll only after 1 month of living in your residence. So you can move overseas for 5 years and then come back and then just not enroll. But you see, they will probably keep all your information and when you're highlighting all your passport details. So you can do it, but you have to leave the country for it and then come back. But this is one of the many tricks that they try and get you while you're in school to sign up to their BS, basically. The other one, which is very important, because this is the one that they do when you're young in school, year 5 or 6 or 7, something like that. And it's called a tax file number. I don't know if it's the same to social security numbers, but this tax file number is given to the Taxation Office so that when you have a job and superannuation and stuff like this, they can tax you accordingly. Now you're done when you're a young age. Your school teachers give you this piece of paper that makes you fill out all the information, and I think you need a copy of your birth certificate. You fill out all the information and it gets sent to the government. You didn't know why. You weren't old enough to understand what it meant. It was just something that everyone did. And they taught that. And I disagree. We didn't have a choice. You can't unsign it. You can't undo it. Because I wanted to know, how can you become invisible? Well, as a child, you're given all these things to make you visible. You're told to sign up to a bank account. You're told to create a tax file number or a social security number, or you're created to get into voting so that your name is connected to the government system. So I thought, well, if you don't sign up for a tax file number, what happens? If you don't have a bank account, you don't have all those specific things that tie you to, what happens? Well, let's say you have a job that wants to pay you. Well, you have to pay cash. Because here it says if you don't have a tax file number, your employer or bank is legally required to withhold tax at a maximum rate of 47%. So if you don't have a tax file number, but you have a bank account and someone pays you, you're only basically going to get 50% of your pay because you don't have one. So And then that becomes a problem for your work, and some people won't hire you unless you've got one, and it's all this sort of thing. Cash jobs are irrelevant. So basically it means they can't charge you tax because you're not registered for tax. It means you can't get a lot of the benefits, but we don't need them anyway. You can't lodge a tax return or any of those sort of things because you don't have it. So you're basically cash is king environment. So let's say the only piece of documentation as a child and a teenager now that you have is your birth certificate. Can this tax office get your information from your birth certificate? I wanted to know that, because if you don't have a tax file number, they don't know who you are. If you don't have any bank accounts or driver's licenses or mortgages or any of those things that tie you to government websites or government documents, you don't have any voting, can they go and grab your information from your birth certificate? Okay, so I've got this from the internet, but I'm sure they legally can, but it basically states here no. The ATO, which is the Australian Tax Office, cannot directly access your birth certificate data from state registries without your approval or specific legal mechanisms. So if you do something wrong, for example, and they need to access it, they'll take you to court to get it. Now, if you're just a singular person and you haven't done anything wrong, then you technically don't exist. So they have no reason to come after you unless you give them one. So the ATO does not have automatic real-time access to the databases of state and territory registry of births, deaths, and marriages. Instead, this is the kicker, they rely on user-provided evidence. And it goes on all about all the other stuff, which is your documents and stuff like this. So what they rely on is you legally providing them the information. And why is that important? Because when we're children, this is what they do in school. They force you to fill this information out against your will because you're not old enough to realize what it is. We don't need it. That's how they get you. And then in life, they tax you over and over, and you can't leave. You can't just not have your tax return. Every time you move it, you have to update your addresses. They shouldn't know where I live. You have to go in and fill a tax return. If you don't fill your tax return, you get, well, problems. So I like to read this bit because it states here, if you have no other footprint, par your birth certificate, if you have no tax file number, no bank accounts, no licenses, and no interactions with Services Australia, the ATO likely has no record of you and no way to independently find you using your birth certificate data. They cannot spontaneously query state birth registries to discover unregistered individuals. You effectively remain invisible to their automated system until you voluntarily present your birth certificate to an initiate or to initiate a relationship, like applying for a TFN. Interesting. Because how does these companies know you exist? Let's say you have a home birth. You have a birth certificate. You work for your home family or a local farmer or gardener or people that give you cash instead. You're not a part of the system. So what does this mean? It means that they trick us and our families and our fellow grandfathers and parents to trick us into giving away our rights because they cannot legally force you to sign up. They cannot legally make you sign a tax file number. It's your right, but they make it appear so because everybody does it. If you want to get a driver's license, if you want to get all these documents, you must have this. You must have something because everything is taxed. So it says here, for some documents like driver's license, the ATO uses the document verification service to check details against government records. However, full birth certificates are generally not available on the DVS. So it's interesting because if you have a driver's license so you can drive a car, then they will check that. So it's interesting. These types of documents, if you need it, they will get you one way or another to try to sign away your privileges, your rights. So here's the thing. If we never have to worry about finances or money ever again, because our parents or ourselves are the ones capable of maintaining this wealth within ourselves, we are the ones that vote, we do all of that, we have the accounts, we have all of that. And we deal solely with cash and through our own accounts. Then our children don't need to be a part of the system, and we can slowly migrate them out of it so that they can build a new one. I think we need to start looking at ways of removing ourselves from the system entirely so that it has no more control over the people. And we can become invisible. So it is with that, I leave you with peace and love. Take care.